Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, yeah,
Absolutely. Well,
yeah.
I love your story. I love what you're doing. Before we get into your work, I want to know. 4 years ago, we were wrapping our brains around this pandemic, and it and,
Hmm.
and the response globally was different everywhere.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, how did you survive that time period, and how did it subsequently change you?
So for me, I accidentally left hospitality in January 2020.
Uh-oh.
So I lost the contract by but basically there was loss of revenue in the hotel and they were like, right, we can't renew your contract. And I was like, yeah, no worries, that's fine. Um, didn't know what was coming. And then in March, I started a new job. And then about 2 months later, not doing hospitality, 2 months later, I had a bit of an epiphany. And I was like, can I swear? Can
Yeah,
I
please
swear?
do. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I
You
was like,
totally can.
okay, cool. I was like, shit, if people could feel good enough and about their own pleasure, they may not feel they may feel more able to say no to certain things, and then things like interrelationship rape and that kind of thing might not happen so much.
Yep.
So I went on this massive deep dive into finding the most in-depth coaching qualification in the world, and my pandemic was me training.
Cool. So,
Yeah, so it
so
was amazing.
yeah, it was good. So let's get to the heart and soul of what you do for a living. And I'm going to put
Yeah.
you in front, and I'm sure you have to be tangential about this if I put you in front of a bunch of third graders. It's career day. Or we can even say sixth graders, maybe. Maybe
Yeah,
we'll up the ante a little bit.
sure.
And one of the kids is like, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you
Oh,
answer that child?
I would say I help people from the LGBTQ plus community have amazing relationships. The best relationships they built, like better than they ever even dreamt of.
So
Um, to a sixth grader.
that makes sense. So what did you want to be in the third or sixth grade when you were young? What was your dream to grow up and become?
I wanted to be an actor and on
Okay.
stage, a stage actor.
Did you do that for a while?
I did it for a little bit, and then I went down the science route because I love science, like really like love getting into the nitty-gritty of like the whys. Um, and then I just kind of found hospitality, and hospitality is really interesting. I was managing four-star hotels at like 23,
Yeah.
like really on it. And I think now with coaching and my business becoming more one-to-one or one-to-two, and then starting to do more public speaking, I've really found that crossover between like being able to be on stage. And the next kind of phase of my business will be that kind of Tony Robbins style event where you come for a retreat and it's more on stage. So I think I've managed to find the crossover of like stage and supporting people, because I definitely found my purpose when I found my coaching business, like no question.
So the one thing about what you're doing, and I see that with any relationship that any intimate relationship that people have, is
Yeah.
that we are all so bad in the beginning about it. I think women are probably inherently better. They're more
Yeah.
in tune with their biology and they're more advanced when they're teenagers. In general, I mean, women usually have a 3-year leap on men.
Yeah.
So how is it that we are so bad early on? And there's a lot of people that never really learn how to get better at it until later on. Do you notice that? Do you notice that there's a learning curve? How did that happen?
I think that's like society's really taught us to not share our feelings, and we're finally coming out the other side of that. I think Gen Z are doing some incredible things about just speaking their feelings. But if you think about it, like less so for the North American conduit of listeners right now, but like some of the people I'm coaching, their grandparents were Victorians.
Yeah.
And it's like stiff upper lip, and like North America and England and the rest of Europe are intrinsically connected in a really beautiful way, and I think it crosses over all the time, and people are taught not to share stuff really early on. I do a lot of work around stress cycles and completing stress cycles, and that's about how trauma is stored in the body and kind of what happens. And the reason we have stress cycles, incomplete stress cycles, is because when we're younger, if something scary or bad happens to us, we our body's natural instinct is to cry or to shake, right? Like that's what it does. And what do you do if you see a child shaking or crying? There, stop crying, stop doing it, stop doing it. You know, you're fine, you're fine. And actually, we should be allowing these children to just cry it out, like not in a unsupported way, but just
Yeah.
like, you know, feel those feelings. Because if you're taught from a really early age that it's not okay to feel sad and not okay to feel, you know, angry or whatever it is, you just suppress, suppress,
Yeah.
suppress, don't want to speak about it. And then, you know, all our formative years, like 0 to 7, that's what affects us as an adults, right? That's what we're always unraveling, you know, in therapy and coaching and everything like that is how to talk about those things. So I think, you know, the people that I'm working with, like, you know, 35 to 55, and I've got some of my coaches are like sort of in their 60s. We're having to unravel, don't speak about what you're feeling, don't be true, don't be honest, you know, and we live in a world where it's so easy to put a facade up, you know, social media, like I would call it tits and teeth, like put your best show on, right?
Yep.
And we think that that's the best way for someone to fall in love with us, like put this big show on, be everything you want them that you think they want you to be. And we can only keep up with it for so long.
Yep.
Like it just doesn't stay and doesn't stick. And then the facade starts to fall down. You're like, oh shit. Like, and then they start to see the real you. So
Yeah.
it's really hard.
So do you think maybe this mental health awareness that we've come to, this epiphany as humans following this pandemic, has allowed people to find you and to find a better way to understand intimacy and things that will make our lives that much better? Because I mean, any of our personal relationships that thrive is going to make everything else glow in our lives. Do you find that that's been the case?
Yeah, I mean, for me, like the root of the best relationships in the world, in like partner romantic relationships, is sex. And I think as a result of the pandemic, as a result of people kind of being able to talk about themselves and a bit more freely, they're starting to realize that actually having the best sex of their lives is achievable. And that's, for me, the way that I work is how you have the best relationships.
Yeah.
Like, sex is the life force, right? Regardless of how you identify, regardless of whether or not it's, you know, some people would say that we're here to procreate. I don't necessarily follow that line of thought. Like, we're here to have sex. Like, it's delicious, it's yummy, it's great. If you base like everything you do on that gentleness and how beautiful those moments can be, relationships just soar because
Yeah.
you're open, because you're being open-hearted, because you're able to articulate what you're experiencing. So in terms of the pandemic, yeah, I do really feel like it opened up this ability for people to talk about things, but also I think it's, for me personally, it's how deeply I've gone. We talk in coaching about transmission, right? Like you can only take someone as deep as you've been. And like me, I have plunged the depth of my, you know, psyche and my trauma to get it out to make sure that I'm able to hold people. And so when someone comes into my coaching space, they're like, I can tell you anything. I'm like, yeah. And they're like, and you won't judge me. And I'm like, no. And that's like, that's one of the fundamentals of what I do, is about safety and building that safety.
So take me back to your childhood. How did you develop these seeds and this desire to become a coach and to be someone? You're not just doing a job, you're helping people find a better place in their existence. How did this
Yeah.
happen?
I have always been a really caring person. There's a really funny story about how a mum, someone I still know now, a mum brought their child to school and they were starting in the middle of the year and they were so scared at 5 years old, right? And the mum always tells a story that out I came, bold as brass. Hi, I'm Cherish. Nice to meet you. Come and do art with me. Like I've always been that caring person, that translated through friendships. And then when I was in hospitality, you know, like I love looking after people, right? Like I love creating wow moments, like putting a smile on people's faces. And I'll be really honest, when I was in hospitality, I always felt like something was missing. Like I just couldn't get those touch points that I wanted with people. And they'd be like, Cherish, you know, you've been speaking to these guests for 25 minutes. And I'd be like, yeah, but we've just like talked about so much, you know?
Yeah.
Um, and then suddenly like coaching fell across my lap. And when I told people I'm going to become a sex coach, my longest friends, they were like, well, duh. Like people that have known me since I was 10 or 11, like my longest friends were like, oh, thank God you finally found your calling.
Yeah.
You know, there gives nothing in the world gives me as much joy as when I complete a you know, set of 10 or, you know, 20 sessions with someone and they're like, I've just had the best sex of my life in their 60s, or my relationship's the best it's ever been, or, I one of my clients, I don't think they'd mind me saying, although, there's no attachment to it, you wouldn't know who it was, but, they broke up with their partner after a really long time of unhappiness. It's not always about sticking with the person if it's not right for you both.
Mhm.
So, yeah, nothing gives me as much pleasure as when someone achieves something they want to achieve,
Yeah.
like, and they just, and their whole life gets better, and I just get to see them off on their merry way on social media, like, either with someone or single, or just, like, exploring new things. Maybe they've come into, realize a different sexuality to the one they've been living. Like, it's just delicious. I love it.
Yeah, so, who's been a hero for you, an inspiration for you in your life?
Oof, that's a great one. I I met Kate Winslet when I was 4. She came and stayed at a holiday home, and we were quite good friends with the family, and I love her deep, rich femininity.
Mhm,
I've always thought, and I've always watched her career go, like, I think there's something so powerful about a woman in her femininity, like that kind of rich, owned, powerful, incredible energy.
mhm,
Um, I've got few incredible coaches that I really look up to. Layla Martin, someone that I trained with, she's amazing, fully embodied sexual goddess. Um, yeah, and a lot of the other trainers that I've worked with are amazing. Um, and someone I don't have a relationship with my dad, but there is someone who has been that thing for me, and he's always on the end of the phone. He's like, yeah, one of my um he's definitely probably my biggest cheerleader, and he's also my biggest, like, come the fuck on, Cherish, like, what's next? And I
yeah,
love that. So yeah, I love people. I was doing a piece of work the other day, and it was like, list, the 15 people that you're most drawn to in your world, right? And you most, you've looked up to, and every single one of them, and the why. And I wrote down all these 15 people, and every single one of them, next to them, I wrote unapologetically themselves and
yeah.
completely in integrity and authenticity. And that for me is something that I deeply strive for. Like, I'm always looking at ways to make sure I'm sat in integrity. I had a really interesting thing happen in a training the other day where I was running a retreat, and we looked at the fact that the word integral, integrity, um, from the same root, and how being in your integrity is integral to having
Yeah.
being in authenticity, and just loved that. Like, really loved the
Yeah.
kind of
That
lexicon.
yeah, that's a great little English leap there for sure.
Yeah,
S
yeah,
so let me ask you this, you are obviously you met Kate, which a lot of people would love to meet,
yeah.
but if there's anybody else on the planet that you're fascinated with, that you would love to meet and spend time with, who would that be?
Ooh. Super interesting. Who would that be? Someone that really comes to mind is I really love the way that Aubrey Marcus's brain works. Big podcaster, quite a life-changing person for me throughout this process. And would really love to spend time with Deepak Chopra, just being in his
Yeah.
presence. Love that energy, love that ability to, like, one of his books is the one that I've spent a lot of time just reading. It's my one I always come back to. Really, really love that. Love the kind of presence that he holds, and that real, again, integrity, authenticity.
So, what is the motivation for you every day to do the work that you do? You have to give a lot of yourself to help others get to that place, but you have to parlay enough energy out to evolve as a human yourself. So, how do
Mm.
you do that? What is that ultimate motivation for you every day to be the complete you?
Um, So for me, in terms of, like, the bigger picture, I want to help as many people as I can have achieve their dream relationships. My 7-figure purpose is design the relationship or the future you're inspired to create, right? Like, how can I support as many people as is humanly possible? My goal is to have Oprah on my show in 20 years' time. It might not be Oprah, it might be Michelle Obama, but, like, that's the goal, right? And it's not about kind of grandiose, um, kind of be the most famous person. It's like, I know I will have helped hundreds or thousands of people in that time if I when I get there. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
I can only show up every day for my coachees if I'm maintaining a level of, I keep coming back to it, this integrity. I can't be fake. My clients see straight through it. They're not drawn to it.
Yeah.
I can't show up and kind of put a brave face on it. I have to sit there because I'm taking people to the depths of their psyche sometimes, the depths of their trauma on there. And sex is such a big topic,
Yeah.
so many different facets of what we learn early on and how we develop that as an adult. So yeah, I like in terms of, I think, fully answering your question, I have therapy and coaching every week.
Yeah.
Like it's super important to me to maintain my like constant, you know, it's not never being settled and feeling comfortable where I am. It's like I am a little bit fanatic about growth and
Yeah.
development and like integrating the parts of me like and just when I think like oof overcome that one, it's like what's next,
Yeah.
right? And it's yummy. And there's an amazing book uh this name has escaped me for a second, um which is about like getting really kinky with your deepest shadow.
Hmm.
And it'll come to me in a second, it's really annoying, it's escaped me. And it's like getting really so conscious with your shadow and like getting really hot on it. And I set a client once, like he was struggling with his age, and I was like, I want you to go and get off on being old, like gnarly hands and that kind of thing. And it's like, yeah, how can I get off on my shadow? I don't know if you use the
Yeah.
terminology shadow, but it's like that internal world, like what's next?
Yeah. So let me ask you this. You've obviously overcome a lot and evolved in your life. If you have a dream tonight and you run into the 18-year-old version of you, you can give that
Yeah.
young version of you a piece of advice based on the wisdom you've gained in your life. What advice would you give that 18-year-old version? And would that version of you listen?
I love that. I saw that the other day. I saw this a similar question the other day. I would definitely say believe in yourself.
Hmm.
No one else will believe in you like you can. Go to therapy sooner and and don't let relationships be your guiding North Star.
Okay.
I think that she would listen to the believe in yourself. I think that she would listen to the relationship thing. I made a lot of mistakes early on. I came out later in life and I let my life run really fast down a relationship route. And I definitely put my career on hold as a result.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which which I really try really hard not to have regrets. Like I think it's so important to just be like, I learned from it. I learned, I grew, Um, but I definitely allowed myself to be completely absorbed in relationships
Yeah.
when actually I could have been focusing on me and what I wanted. And I think I would be in a different place as a result.
So, of all of the things that you've done in your life up to this point, what are you the proudest of?
My coaching business,
Yeah.
no question. Like being an entrepreneur is really challenging. And having the belief in yourself that you're a good coach is a really interesting lesson. And of course you're always being reflected in that, you're getting reflections of people achieving things that they want to achieve or testimonials. But um I am incredibly proud. Doors open up for me on a weekly basis in terms of my business, and I'm so excited about what the next bit looks like. And I I'm not blessed with financial input of family. I've done everything on my own. I was financially independent from about 17, and maybe 16. I started my first job when I was 14. Um, and I'm incredibly proud of myself for getting to where I've got.
Yeah.
Um, I I feel really passionately about like, yeah, I'm my biggest advocate and I'm the one who's going to make it. And I love that about myself. If it's really hard to be like not sound like I'm egoic, but like I'm really proud of myself.
Right. No, I get it. I totally get it. So
Yeah.
let's say we get off this call, time
Mhm.
machine pulls up in front of your house. You can go back in time in human history and see one event, or you can go into the future and see what's going on. Where are you going to go?
I'd probably go to the 60s and see the like sexual revolution of the 60s.
Yeah.
That was incredible, and I would love to know what was going on. Like we see so much stuff of like within the media of like what they think was going on. But yeah, I'd be really, really interested to go and see like what was going on underneath, like
Yeah.
what was the nitty-gritty awareness. I'm not necessarily the like the mushroom revolution, but like there was such like it exploded in
Yeah.
the 60s, right?
Yeah.
And free love was everywhere, and that's really exciting. The
Yeah.
50s to the 60s is just like a completely different space, you know, and I'm really interested in why and the hows and that kind of thing.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, everyone has a perception of you. Family,
Mm.
friends, clients, but you run the show. What's
Mhm.
your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Ambitious, driven, kind, perhaps a little bit too soft sometimes. Um, I wear my heart on my sleeve. I go into situations, friends, any relationship with anyone with my heart wide open, sometimes to my detriment, but also like I love big, regardless of who you are. And people always feel that.
So if anyone wants to hire you, reach out, learn more about what you're doing, any of the good business, where do they go?
My website's got everything, cherishamber.com. It's got everything on there. You can chat to me about an exploration call. I do like a 45-minute chat to like really get to know each other. Like I think that entering into any kind of um relationship, coaching relationship or any other relationship like takes time. We don't just like just run straight at it. It's
Yeah.
really, really important. So yeah, everything's on there. My podcast is on there, and access to all my social medias.
Excellent. Cherish, thank you so much. I appreciate
Thank
your
you.
story. Keep doing the great work.
You're amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care.